Hey everybody, this is Jim at SP500chart.com using time-honored techniques to understand modern markets, featuring daily technical analysis videos of the S&P 500 index. I want to remind you again that the website and this video are for educational purposes only. Nothing stated at the site or in this video is intended to be used as investment advice. I can draw lines on charts, but you have to draw your own conclusions from your own research and make investment decisions that are suitable for your personal financial situation. And I am still not a licensed financial professional, just a guy who draws lines on charts. So let's look at the S&P. Okay, let's establish a little background. The first thing is that off this 1080 bottom back in early October, after the S&P broke out over this orange line here, it established what looks to be a fairly well-defined trading range in a parallel channel, the bottom line of which is more dependable than the top line. A lot of this was running ragged at the tops, as was this whole thing, just all over the place. You know, this looked like it was a head and shoulders continuation pattern that broke down, then all of a sudden it just zoomed back up, and all the while, by the way, I don't know whether you remember this, and maybe you weren't watching my videos, but while all of this was taking place, I kept mentioning that there is always the chance that the S&P could rally back to this neckline area in the 1270s or even the low 1280s. At the time, it was slightly ascending, this line is. And lo and behold, that's what happened. And now what it looks to me, and this is going to be a fairly quick video, because if you've been watching them, you kind of know the program already, and that is this channel broke pretty decisively, and I'm looking for a back test of this blue line, and a back test of this blue line should be the signal to sell. Either get out of your long positions if you're still in them, or sell short. So, but I can't tell you what to do. You have to do your own research. So let me just kind of let's look at a couple things that are kind of interesting, and I want to see how this market has been trading since that big gap down yesterday, because I think this is important. And the way I've got it, and the way it looks to me, let me move this line. There we go, so I can grab my little handle here. It looks very much to me that so far, for the past 2 days, the tops and bottoms here are being defined by these two green lines that are, not surprisingly, a rising wedge. Now, why do I say not surprisingly a rising wedge? Why do I say not surprisingly a rising wedge? Well, because it's pretty typical for a pullback move to be in the shape of a wedge. Okay? So let's see if tomorrow this pattern continues. If so, I still think we could get up to I think there's going to be a little resistance here in the high 1240s, 1250. But if it gets up over that, then I think it will likely backtest this blue line, which is that broken channel line. But what I would do is I would keep an eye on this bottom line. And if this keeps trading on up and trading on up, I would wait for that line to show you that this wedge is now busted. And I've also mentioned a few times in the past that there are a couple things that are interesting about wedges. One of them is that a lot of times a well-formed wedge, and this is something that I've not read anywhere, this is something that I've just witnessed, and I'm going to share that with you because, well, if you're looking at this on the 2nd of November, you've paid for this. So you get something that I think is kind of unique here, and that is the one way you can test to see if a wedge is indeed a wedge is to snap a line right down the middle of it, which I've done here with these two green lines to find the pattern. This gray line starts at the midpoint back here and cuts this wedge exactly in half all the way up to the apex. And by the way, extra credit if you can tell me where this apex is. So what I'm saying is, if you look inside this wedge, you start to get smaller and smaller moves, and you start to see some technical, what I call technical significance to that bisecting line. Then you can rest pretty easy that you're dealing with a rising wedge. Okay, if you snap this line down the middle and it really doesn't look like anything is bouncing here and there, like you can see here, there was resistance, support, resistance, not quite support, resistance. So already we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 events inside this wedge on that bisecting line. So let's just kind of watch this, see how it develops. Another thing that I've mentioned, and again, I don't know that I've read this before, but it's just something that I've noticed, is that if you look at where the apex is on a wedge, often it is at a point that also has technical significance. And in this case, again, assuming that this what's happened for the past 2 days continues until the pattern breaks, then isn't it interesting that this rising wedge points to the neckline on that Head and Shoulders top? So I don't think it's going to get all the way up there. It could. Something tells me it will likely break before then, because by the time it gets up here, there is so little play in it that nobody is interested in. Nobody's really going to be interested in taking a long position for a 0.03% move. So that's why wedges do what they do, by the way. When you're down here at the bottom, someone who buys here at 12.16, all of a sudden they go, gee, I bought at 12.16, I'm selling at 12.40 something. That's a nice profit. And then it comes back down. They say, well, I'm back in now at 12.27, and I'll sell at 12.50. That's a good profit. Then it comes back down. They say, well, I buy it at 12.47, and I'm going to sell it at 12.58. That's okay. And then I buy it back at 12.56, and with, well, you know, it's not really worth buying at 12.56 because this pattern says I'm only going to get 8 points out of it. That's kind of risky. And then that's when they break down. I'm not saying that everyone's following the wedge as they do this, but what I am saying is the movements just the same show you that the payoff for taking a long position in this pattern is less and less and less as it goes up. So it'd be interesting to see. I'm not making any guarantees that this wedge plays out, but for the past 2 days it sure has. Let's see if this keeps on going. And if so, if it reaches a back test of this blue line, and if it does it then sell back down? Because that should be what this wedge does. And if you look at it in, let's say, a 30-minute chart, the net result of this is that this pattern is likely a bear flag. So we had this top, sell down, big move down yesterday, and now it's just kind of creeping up, and at some point, more than likely, the bottom will drop out of this pattern, and there'll be a renewed selling interest. So look, that's kind of it for today. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to watch the video. And when you get a chance, please stop by sp500chart.com. We have a little forum there. There's not very many people in it, but the people who are in it are pretty sharp cookies. So I think you can get something out of that. We have one gentleman. I believe he's a gentleman. I've never heard his voice, but who is based in Europe, and he really does an excellent job keeping up with all of the news in Europe as it is released through European sources. That makes it kind of interesting, especially with everything that's going on over there. I also want to remind you that if you like this kind of analysis and you find it helpful, if you're not already a subscriber and you're seeing this on a delayed basis, I want to encourage you to think about the small investment to subscribe to the daily updates that are released after each day's close. So instead of seeing it 2 or 3 days later, you see it hot off the press, and it's $19.95 a month or $189.95 per year. All subscriptions start with a $4.95 2-week trial. And to date, 95% of the people who do, or a little bit better, 95% of the people who do the trial stick with it. So there you go. Appreciate you considering that. Thanks a lot, and good luck to you tomorrow.